Hello everybody, my name is Cameron Earl and today I'm here with another video. Today is going to be a very different video on my channel. Today I am doing my first of hopefully many reviews of the FNAF Fazbear Frights books. So the Fazbear Fright books started sometime in 2019. I'm not sure about any of the release dates actually, but yeah, they started sometime in 2019, and I can't remember because I just got them for Christmas. I can't remember if they were instantly a hit or not, but I've been a fan of FNAF since the third game came out. Um, exactly when, not sure. I just know that it was the day of the release of Markiplier's first part of FNAF 3, and that has been my childhood, and that has led me into now, where I'm still in love with the FNAF franchise, no matter how ridiculous it gets, and Markiplier is still my favorite YouTuber. But I've never been much of a reader, and that's where the problem came in when it came to getting these FNAF books, because I just I couldn't find the patience in me to, sit down and read a whole book. But I'm like, it's FNAF. Give it a try. I got the first books of Tales of the Pizzaplex, and I read the first story, and I'm like, okay, I see where these are going. These aren't all related to FNAF, but they have FNAF qualities, and they're very weird. But we're actually starting in with Into the Pit, which, if you are just reading Into the Pit, getting into these books, this is going to be a spoiler review. Will be spoilers. And yeah, just letting you know that if you're watching the first part of this, a time traveling ball pit is not going to be the weirdest thing you will see in this franchise of books. There's 12 of them. I got the box set, so Bruce the Shark, or not Bruce the Shark, I'm thinking of Jaws. Whatever his name, the shark guy, that'll be the final book review, so I will review that. I've only gotten to the man in room 1280, the third and final story of the fifth book, Bunny Call, and hopefully I'll be starting on Blackbird tomorrow. And yeah, let's get started. So, Into the Pit. An amazing cover. And Into the Pit has the main... Into the Pit, the main villain is Spring Bonnie, or Yellow Bonnie, or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, Into the Pit. I love this story. Into the Pit's really good. Actually, all three of these stories are pretty good. There is only 2 stories in the first 5 books that I dislike, and none of them are in this book. So this consists of 3 stories and an epilogue. I think I'll review the epilogue separately from anything else if I feel like it. I'm not going to talk about the epilogue because I myself haven't even finished all 11 of the epilogues, since the 12th book doesn't have an epilogue. So, Into the Pit, Scott Cawthon, Ellie Cooper, Volume 1 of Fazbear Frights. Probably the best cover art of the books. This cover art has become iconic in FNAF at this point. So, let's read back first. What do you wish for most? It's a question that Oswald, Sarah, and Millie think they know the answer to. Oswald wishes his summer wasn't so boring. Sarah wishes to be beautiful. And Millie wishes she could just disappear from the face of the earth. But in the twisted world of Five Nights at Freddy's, their heart's deepest desires have an unexpected cost. Yeah, so the 3 stories in this are Into the Pit, To Be Beautiful, and Count the Ways. Count the Ways is the shortest, then To Be Beautiful is a little shorter. Into the Pit, it looks like. Yeah, let's delve right into the first story. So we got Into the Pit here. Oh, well, too bad my camera's inverted. So, Into the Pit is about a kid named Oswald. Oswald lives in a very boring town. The town's only source of money was the mill. And, oh yeah, we're getting into spoiler territory now. Um, so, basically, uh, it's just very boring. His one and only friend left for the summer. He doesn't get out much. He doesn't socialize much. His family's running on fumes, basically, for money. His mom is the one who works. His dad kind of sort of works, but his dad also makes time for his son. It's been a while since I've read this. By a while, I mean like a month. So I'm not going to remember much about it. But yeah, he loves his mom and his dad, Oswald does, but he's very frustrated with them because they won't do anything for him about the whole money situation. The mill, the source of most of the town's money, uh, basically shut down, and the majority of the people moved out, and it's essentially a ghost town at this point with not many people living in it. But there is two places that he spends his time at: the library, where a lot of homeless men and just gamer people spend time on the computers, and he goes on a computer or he'll read books. But then when he's hungry, he'll take whatever change he has left and he'll get, from what I remember, it's an orange soda and a slice of cheese pizza from the guy. I'm pretty sure the guy's name is Jeff, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, Pretty sure it's Jeff's Pizzeria is the name of the place. It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff's Pizza. At lunchtime, he sat in Jeff's Pizza with his slice and soda every day, a cheese slice. If his dad wasn't so stingy, he'd give him another dollar so he could have pepperoni or sausage. But no, it had to be the cheapest pizza you could get. Sure, money was tight, but really, was another dollar a day going to break the bank? Looking around the place, Oswald decided Ben was right, which is his friend that moved away. Jeff's Pizza was creepy. There were those shadowy painted figures on the wall, the dusty abandoned ball pit, and when he thought about it, Jeff was kind of creepy too. He looked 100 years old, but was probably just 30, with those heavy-lidded, bloodshot eyes and stained apron, and the slow speech and movement. He was like a zombie pizza chef. Oswald thought about his argument with his dad this morning. Yeah, he got in an argument with his dad. So basically, at the point of the story, he doesn't care how sticky or dusty the old ball pit is. He sees outlines of the animatronics on the wall. This is obviously old Fazbear's Pizzeria. I think this story takes place in like the early 2000s. Well, he decides to hide from his dad in the ball pit, and he counts to 100. And he gets up to look, and he's in a whole new area. A lively pizzeria, kids in 80s style clothing running around playing arcade games. He's realized he's gone back into time. And he actually meets some friends. And these friends, they play the arcade games with him. He really likes them. And he goes back into the ball pit, counts to 100, gets out. Well, yeah. I'm trying to think. Well, every day he goes back into that ball pit, counts to 100. It has to be 100, I guess. It probably didn't, but just in his mind it did. He would go into the ball pit, play with his friends, but one day he goes into the ball pit and something's not right. Every day he's been in there, he has spotted this creepy bunny spying on all the children and, just stalking the place. This creepy yellow rabbit. And it looked like just an animatronic, but he could see that there was disgusting stuff inside of the suit or something like that. Can't remember if he saw blood or not. Anyway, he goes into the ball pit one day, and when he comes out, everybody's screaming. Now, this was in the 80s when, the whole killing thing went on in the FNAF lore. And he gets lured down this dark corridor by Spring Bonnie. And Spring Bonnie opens a room, and there's a bunch of unalive children in there. Well, when Oswald goes to run, the bunny chases him. Well, Oswald gets to the ball pit, counts to 100, and gets out. and he's back in the pizzeria, and he's like, "Oh, thank God, I escaped it." But his dad's there, and his dad is going, "Hey, why are you in there?" And his dad is really upset. Well, when they're going to leave, his dad is yanked into the ball pit by something his dad can't see, and Spring Bonnie emerges, grabs Oswald, throws Oswald into the car, and proceeds to drive Oswald home, not saying a word. Uh, so, yeah, that's where the action starts picking up. His dad gets sucked into the ball pit by Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie's in the modern world now and drives him home. When they get back, the only person who seems to notice that Spring Bonnie is not actually Oswald's dad is the cat. But the mom sees Spring Bonnie as his dad. Like, Spring Bonnie has this cloak over him specifically for his mom. And when whenever he looks, he doesn't see his dad. He sees the rabbit. Whenever he talks to it, the rabbit doesn't do anything. It doesn't even give so much as a nod. The rabbit shows no emotion. It just lounges around the house, sleeps in their bed, eats their food. Well, one night, he's tired of it. He manages to sneak out of the house and run back to the pizzeria to get to his dad, and he finds his dad in the ball pit. But suddenly, as he's pulling his dad out of the ball pit, he gets ambushed by the rabbit, who tries to attack him. But the rabbit opens its mouth, revealing sharp, serrated teeth, and bites into Oswald's arm, causing him to bleed. Oswald pushes the rabbit in a weird way, and the rabbit gets tangled. Like, I don't know exactly how it all happened, but the rabbit gets tangled in the safety netting around the ball pit and basically hangs himself. The rabbit is gone. His dad pulls out his dad gets out of the ball pit, and suddenly, hang on. All right, I'm back. Suddenly, uh, it's over. Yeah, his dad sees that his arm is destroyed, but at some point he even headbutts the bunny. Now that story, good ending for the most part. You know, he escaped the potential murder bunny. Uh, Now we're gonna get on to the weirdest story in this book, which is To Be Beautiful. This story is wild. So, the second story follows Susie. Susie is a very tragic young child. I think she's like 12 or 14. I forget. I'm pretty sure she's like 12. Hold on, let me see. Oh no, she's a young girl. She doesn't like the way she looks. Like, this first paragraph is sad. Flat and fat. Those were the two words that Sarah thought of when she looked in the mirror, which she did a lot. How could somebody with such a curved belly be as flat as an ironing board everywhere else? Other girls could describe their shapes as being like an hourglass or a pear. Sarah was shaped like a potato. Looking at her bulbous nose, her prominent ears, and how all her parts seemed to be stuck onto her body at random, she was reminded of Mrs. Mix-and-Match doll she had as a kid. The one with different eyes, ears, noses, mouths, and other body parts you could stick on her to make her look as hilarious as you wanted. And so that was the nickname she came up with for herself, Mrs. Mix-and-Match. But at least Mrs. Mix-and-Match had Mr. Mix-and-Match. Unlike the girls at school whom she called the Beautifuls, Sarah didn't have a boyfriend or any prospective one. Sure, there was one boy she looked at, dreamed of, but she knew he wasn't looking at or dreaming of her. She guessed that she, like Mrs. Mix-and-Match in her single days, would just have to wait around until some equally unfortunate-looking guy came along. But in the meantime, she needed to finish getting ready for school. Still looking at her worst enemy, the mirror. She applied some mascara and pink-tinted lip balm. On her birthday, her mom had finally given her permission to wear a little light makeup. She gave her dull, moussey brown hair a thorough brushing. She sighed. It was as good as it was going to get, and it wasn't good. So, immediately starting with the gut punches for this girl, Sarah. So, yeah, Sarah hates what she looks like. She idolizes and is very jealous of these girls in her school called the Beautifuls. They're four very popular, apparently pretty girls, and they're like cheerleaders, maybe, or something, I think. But yeah, Sarah idolizes them, but also like is very jealous of them, and nobody notices her. Not even the boy she likes. The boy she likes happens to be the most popular boy in the school. I'm pretty sure he has blonde hair, straight teeth, tall, skinny, great smile, something like that. Pretty eyes. I don't know. That's how the book describes him, I guess. Um, well, she has one friend, and one friend only, and her friend likes to be supportive of Sarah, but Sarah doesn't like the criticism to stop hating on herself so much. And Sarah also has a bunch of posters of like models and celebrities in her room that she wishes she could look like. But overall, Sarah is just a very unhappy person with what she looks like. On her way home, she finds, well, she has to walk home, and when she walks home, she has to walk past the scrapyard. I just realized I forgot to give my view on Into the Pit. Um, Into the Pit's amazing. It's a great story. It's exactly what I would expect out of one of these stories, and it's a great headline story to start off the Into the Pit series. And to this day, it still remains one of its best stories. Out of the 12 stories that I've read, so not 12. Actually, out of the 14 stories that I've read fully so far, I think Into the Pit's at like a solid 6 of 14, so really good. It's up there. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a very, well, kind of sort of simple story with the whole time traveling ball pit thing. It could get a little confusing, but most people understand it, and it's just a really good story. And when you think of Fazbear Frights, Into the Pit is probably the one you immediately think about. But going back, one day when Sarah's walking past the scrapyard and she has to walk past to get back home because she has to walk because she walks home, um, she sees this white robotic arm hanging out of a back of a car. She's like, "Oh, let me go see this." And she pulls it out, and this doll is kind of her height. I think this doll's like 5 foot tall, long neck, looks a lot like Circus Baby. A lot of fans who have read Fazbear Frights will come to find this doll as this robot as Eleanor. Well, Sarah takes Eleanor home, and Eleanor wakes up and she introduces herself and asks Sarah what her wish is, and Sarah's like, "Well, my only wish is to be beautiful," because that's the name of the story. And Eleanor's like, "I could do that." Eleanor eventually gives Sarah this necklace, and this necklace, it has a black strap and it has a silver heart pendant. And Eleanor, every moment she gets, tells Sarah not to take the necklace off, no matter what the circumstances on. You have to do everything without taking the necklace off. Sarah's like, "Okay, I can manage that." And every day, Sarah has to, or every night, Sarah has to let Eleanor sing her to sleep with a lullaby. And every day, Sarah wakes up with looking more and more beautiful, like she wanted. Like, she's no longer thick, flappy, meaty arms, or she's no longer like plump belly. Now she's really skinny, or, she's just looking like your typical, depiction of a pretty girl, pretty much. She starts hanging out with the or the beautifuls that she calls. She goes on a date to the movies with her boy crush. Uh, well, it all starts getting freaky when she is sleeping and she has a nightmare about Eleanor, but Eleanor is monstrous with serrated, razor sharp teeth and really scary. And when Eleanor wakes up, Eleanor is looming over her. Sarah has found out that every night since Eleanor has been there, Eleanor has been watching her sleep. Eventually, while eventually when Sarah's at school, she ends her friendship with her previous best friend because her best friend is no longer as popular as Sarah is. The popularity, the looks, it has all gone to Sarah's head drastically. Well, in the lunch line, Sarah slips, and what was laughter soon came screams of horror as Sarah's skin started melting off, revealing rusty metal parts, grease dripped from her, metal, a bunch of metal parts started falling from her. Sarah eventually could hardly move because she felt like she was just rusting into place. She was falling apart. She was becoming a metal scrap heap. As she got home, she looks for Eleanor. She can't find Eleanor. Eventually, Sarah goes into her garage, and Sarah discovers all of her body parts. Turns out what Eleanor has been doing is replacing Sarah's body parts with metal scraps from the scrapyard. And as Sarah's final moments, as she's finally turning into nothing but a pile of metal, Eleanor, I just have to read the ending of this book. Sarah's lower body was almost immobile, but she dragged herself around to face Eleanor. I made your wish come true, Sarah, the pretty robot said with another metallic giggle, and in return, Sarah noticed something she'd never seen on Eleanor before. A heart-shaped button just below Eleanor's throat. This was a double of Sarah's heart-shaped pendant. Eleanor laughed again, then pushed the heart-shaped button. She jerked and shook, but she also visibly softened, her silver finish turning the pinkish shade of Caucasian skin. In the matter of moments, she was a dead ringer for Sarah, the old Sarah, the real Sarah, the Sarah who, looking back on it, hadn't been so bad looking after all. The Sarah who had spent way too much time worrying about her appearance. Abby had been right. She had been right about a lot of things. Abby was her previous friend. Eleanor pulled on an old pair of Sarah's jeans, one of her sweaters, and her tennis shoes. Well, you certainly made my wishes come true, Eleanor said. Smiling with Sarah's old smile, she pushed a button and opened the garage door. Sunlight flooded into the room, and Sarah gave a little wave that skipped out the sunshine, into the sunshine, and down the sidewalk. Sarah's ears filled with a deafening clinking and clanking. She couldn't control her movements. Different rusted metal parts disconnected from her and fell clattering to the floor. She was falling apart, collapsing into an ugly trash heap, a hideous, useless collection of garbage to be thrown away and forgotten. An old mirror propped up against the garage wall. She saw herself. She was no longer a pretty girl, or a girl at all. She didn't resemble a human or any kind. She was nothing but a rusty, dirty pile of junk. She felt sad, then she felt scared, and then she felt nothing at all. So yeah, Eleanor became Sarah. Eleanor could shapeshift. And just like that, with the second story in the franchise, Eleanor has become the main villain of the Fazbear Fright books. So yeah, very scary. Where I put that story, it's actually relatively low on my list. It's actually like, I think I have it at like 12 out of 14, but there's only 2 stories I dislike. I really like To Be Beautiful. The only problem is that it did drag on a lot, and of course Sarah became progressively more unlikable throughout the story. But when things kicked up at the end, they really kicked up, and that's when the story got really good. But now we are here to a story that's widely regarded as one of, if not the best stories in Fazbear Frights, and that is Count the Ways. Yes, Funtime Freddy strikes again in this story, where Millie, a very goth girl, and I think Millie's 14. Millie doesn't want to live. She fantasizes about death, feeling it, seeing it, believing in it. She's into a lot of dark stuff like Edgar Allan Poe. She's very gothic. She dresses in all black makeup. And she gets made fun of because of it. She doesn't have any friends. Well, eventually Millie finds this boy that she likes, but finds out that he's dating someone else, and it breaks her heart. She has to spend the holidays with her grandpa, and her grandpa collects a whole bunch of this junk. Well, because Millie's parents are overseas on a job thing for the holidays. Well, Millie she just can't be happy. She doesn't like her grandpa's happy talk. She prefers to ignore it. She avoids it. She goes into her room, does her homework, reads books, fantasizes about death some more. Just very sad character. Eventually, she wants to hide from the holiday cheer. And she crawls inside the biggest piece of junk her grandpa has collected over the years. A big, fat, white bear with pink cheeks, a split face, Funtime Freddy. But this Funtime Freddy is like broken, and it's like an older model. But she crawls in, she closes it, and realizes she can't get out. And Funtime Freddy starts talking to her. And Funtime Freddy somehow knows that Millie wants to die, or that she fantasizes about death. And Funtime Freddy, the reason why it's called Count the Ways is because Funtime Freddy counts the ways he can kill her. From freezing, acid digestion, to impalement, dehydration, starvation. You know, whether you want to die peacefully or agonizingly, Funtime Freddy will do it. And when Millie is like, I don't want this, because she realizes that all this fantasizing really was just stupid, that she didn't actually want to die. And Funtime Freddy will not let her go. Funtime Freddy says she's dying either way, and she has to stop being so ungrateful, and Funtime Freddy just sees this as a game. Eventually, she decides on decapitation, Funtime Freddy's last choice, but Funtime Freddy said that would be mental because Funtime Freddy has never done decapitation before. But where this story is really cool is there is a lot of history references. Every form of execution that Funtime Freddy can think of, this book basically explains how it came to be, in Funtime Freddy's words, of course. And the perspective this story takes is also really interesting, because the story starts out with her in Funtime Freddy's stomach. Like, it starts like this. Why, if it isn't Millie Fitzsimmons, a deep booming voice said. In the darkness, it was hard to tell exactly where it was coming from, but it felt like it was all around her. Silly Millie, chilly Millie, the ice-cold goth girl who's always dreaming of death, am I right? Who are you? Millie demanded. Where are you? Above her, a large pair of terrifying blue eyes rolled backwards, looking down into the chamber. I'm right here, silly Millie. Or maybe I should say you're right here. You're right inside my belly. In my belly, in the belly of the beast, I guess you could say. So, you're the bear, Millie wondered if she had fallen asleep after she climbed inside the old robot. As she was dreaming, this was all too weird. You can just think of me as a friend. Your friend till the end. We just have to decide if the end is going to be slow or quick. I don't understand. The space was starting to feel claustrophobic. She tried the door. It wouldn't budge. You'll understand very soon, chilly Millie. You goth girls crack me up. All dressed like professional mourners, so serious all the time, daydreaming about death like he's the lead singer of some boy band, and that when you meet him, it'll be the love at first sight. Well, Merry Christmas, Millie. I'm going to make your dreams come true. It's not a question of if, but how. What was happening? She was definitely awake. Had she lost her mind? Descended into madness? Like a character in an Edgar Allan Poe story? I'd like to get out now, she said. Her voice sounded small and shaky. Nonsense, the voice said. You're going to stay in here, all nice and cozy. Alright, I'm back. Where was I? Nonsense, the voice said. You're going to stay in here, all nice and cozy, while we work out how you're going to have your dream date with death. The choice is all yours, but it will be my pleasure to present you with some options. Options of how to die? Millie felt the cold, metallic taste of fear in the back of her throat. Fantasies about death were one thing, but this felt like reality. Millie. What a stupid name. She was named after her great-grandmother, Millicent Fitzsimmons, but Millie wasn't the kind of name you saddled a person with. A cat or dog, maybe, but not an actual human. Millie's black cat was named Annabelle Lee, after the beautiful dead girl in the Edgar Allan Poe poem, which meant that Millie's cat officially had a better name than she did. So this story jumps back and forth in between times. Every time the story breaks, it'll be like a few pages of her life before going in Funtime Freddy, and then it'll be like a paragraph or two of Funtime Freddy counting the ways, and then it continues that pattern consistently until it gets to the part where she enters Funtime Freddy's stomach, and then it's like that for the rest of the story. Eventually, she decides on decapitation, and when Freddy takes the metal plate and goes to stab himself with it to, murder her, Millie's idea is she's going to duck under it and then get out somehow. Well, this is the only bad part of the story where it ends on a cliffhanger. Where I am Cameron Shep. Do you think we should wait for Millie? Sherry asked. She's not celebrating Christmas, remember? Rob said. Why should we wait for her if she decided to be a brat? Grandpa didn't like... Oh, wait, no, that's the end. Alright, that's good. But if there's something all humans are guilty of, then why do I have to die for them? The voice didn't answer, and Millie felt a small tingle of hope. Maybe she wouldn't have to take her chances by curling up on the floor of the cavity. Maybe she could talk herself out of this yet. Because, the voice said, you're the one who crawled into my belly. Whimpering, Millie made herself as small as she possibly could in the bottom of the cavity. If she got out, she was going to make it a point to be nicer to Grandpa. He really had been good to her, taking her and putting up with her moods and teaching himself how to cook all those vegetarian recipes because she's a vegan. In the spirit of the French Revolution, the voice said, I will now do a countdown in French before releasing the blade. I'm going to butcher this. Un, deux, trois. Quick, as a shot, the blade sliced through the chamber. And that's the last we hear of Millie. So, you don't know if she died or not. Because that's how it ends. So he slams down a blade, and we don't know if Millie avoided it or she didn't avoid it. I feel like 70% of people say she didn't, and that she did die, though. Count the Ways, I have that as number 2 on my list. Count the Ways is amazing. That story was great. It has the emotional punches, but Funtime Freddy's maniacal malice throughout the whole story, and it's so good. So yeah, overall this book is very good. If I had to recommend a book to get first, if you're trying to get into Fazbear Frights, get Volume 1. It's by far the most simple, but it'll kind of sort of prepare you for the very weird stuff that's to come. And I don't know, even if you don't get the rest of the books, it's just a really good book to read if you're a FNAF fan. If you're a FNAF fan, I would definitely recommend this. If you're a horror fan, this might be too mellow for you. Like if you're a big horror book fan. And then, of course, every book except the 12th one has an epilogue, a short little epilogue that combines throughout the stories. I'll talk about that in a separate video after I'm actually done reviewing and reading all the books. But yeah, I give this book a solid 8 out of 10. Into the Pit dragged a little bit, but it was really good. To Be Beautiful is lower, but I do really like it. But it dragged a little bit, and the protagonist was kind of unlikable at times. I'm going to give this book a solid 8 out of 10. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.